Chapter 7. Something You Could Never Imitate.
Anger and hate reign supreme.
Sora charged as Xemnas ranted, only to be immediately repelled by the ethereal blades. But in the instant of distraction he created, Riku darted in and landed a blow on Xemnas. Then bolts of energy, spiked like white thorny vines, hemmed Sora and Riku in, all but trapping them. "Now what, Riku?" Sora gasped out, still recovering from the charge as they stood back to back.
"Just fight however you want. I'll cover you."
"Oh, so you get to be the only one who looks cool," Sora retorted, but Riku was already making another dash for Xemnas. Before Riku's eyes, Xemnas vanished, and then two of him appeared, as if he'd split and replicated himself. Sora rushed the one who was farther away. Now he and Riku were both engaged, one-on-one, embroiled in a bitter struggle.
"Can you truly trust Riku?"
Sora Xemnas asked. It had never even occurred to Sora not to. Why wouldn't I? With a burst of strength, he threw Xemnas back. The other Xemnas was trying a similar tactic.
"Riku, aren't you jealous of Sora?"
Rather than bothering to respond, Riku simply slashed at Xemnas' neck. Xemnas seemed to laugh, slipping away as Riku tried to mow him down. Sora and Riku came to a stop in nearly the same spot, both with grim expressions.
"What is controlling your hearts now?"
the Xemnas twins said.
"Sora, Riku, can you say for certain that there are no delusions lurking within your own hearts?"
"Shut up!" Sora retorted. "There's more than just rage and hatred in people's hearts. Why can't Xemnas understand that?" The two figures of Xemnas let out a high, terrible laugh and fused back into one.
"On your guard."
Those bright, thorny vines spat from his hands again. Sora dodged them and hurtled around behind him. "Take this!" Sora's attack sent Xemnas into the air. Riku was there to deal another blow, knocking him higher, but Xemnas regained his balance, brandishing the glowing red ethereal blades. Or so they thought. This time, the red lights were projectiles raining down on them. Ah! There was no avoiding them. Sora braced himself. Riku moved swiftly to deflect the bullets.
"Come on, stay with it."
"I am!" Seeing the sweat on Riku's forehead, Sora glared up at Xemnas, who was watching them from where he floated above. Swinging the Keyblade with all his might, he sprang toward him. The strike connected, but Sora couldn't quite right himself, and just before he could land, a burst of thorns caught him. "Sora!" Riku ran to his aid, but the barbs ensnaring Sora drew him higher. As he struggled, the vines twined around his hands to restrain him.
"Fools,"
Xemnas murmured, and Riku rushed at him, but a wall of light blocked his path, and he couldn't get close. "Riku!" Sora groaned through clenched teeth. "Sora!" Riku flung back Xemnas before he could get too close, and jumped up to slash through Sora's bonds. But Xemnas slid in again, lifting his right hand to blast thorns at Riku from close range. Riku pinned Xemnas' hand under one arm and pushed him back with the other, and in almost the same moment, Sora, freed from the vines, plummeted to the ground. "Real smooth, Sora." Riku landed a second later and helped him up. Yeah. Thanks, Riku." Sora gave him a sheepish grin and closed the distance to Xemnas, swinging the Keyblade with all his strength. After absorbing the blow, Xemnas sailed through the air again, but then he blasted a flare of light upward, and when it faded, the world was cloaked in darkness.
"Look upon the strength of my hearts, fury, hate, envy. Power of all hearts, come to me, give me sustenance."
Red lights rose out of the darkness, swirling around Sora and Riku. "What?" Sora muttered, just as the red lights blitzed toward them. "Ugh!" Riku batted the lights away, trying to protect himself and Sora, but there were too many for him to defend them both, and they knocked him to the ground. "Riku!" Before consciously deciding to do so, Sora was running to his side, interrupted by a red flash swiftly coming to rest at his throat. One of Xemnas' swords, the ethereal blades. There was no move he could make, and above his head, the other blade glinted. Sora stiffened, expecting a terrible blow, but then Riku was on his feet. He shoved Sora out of range. "Riku!" Sora cried. In saving him, Riku had taken a direct hit from the ethereal blades to his own back. Sora! He called. Sora leaped in his direction, and as he passed close, Riku handed off Way to the Dawn, his own Keyblade. With the Keyblade in each hand, Sora charged at Xemnas. How about this? Xemnas was knocked aloft and flipped through the air. Riku! Sora landed next to him and lifted Way to the Dawn. Riku's hand closed around it. They both held it together. And a beam of light burst from Way to the Dawn into the sky, into Xemnas, piercing through his chest. Seeing the heavy damage, Sora and Riku leaped up in tandem to finish the battle, each bringing his Keyblade down on Xemnas. Both blows struck home.
Cursed Keyblades,
Xemnas snarled. He stretched his hand out toward them, and his final roar faded out as if swallowed up by a world of silence. At last, Xemnas wisped away into a spiraling mist of light and dark. This time we did it! Sora jumped and grinned at Riku. But Riku didn't smile back.
I wouldn't be so sure.
Xemnas, who supposedly controlled the lesser nobodies, was no more, and yet there were now swarms of nobodies pouring in from the darkness around them, almost as if in mourning for their master.
If we're gonna get out of here, we'll have to beat them.
Riku repositioned Way to the Dawn and charged into the swarm, with Sora close behind. How many times have I taken down nobodies like this? But I usually have Donald and Goofy with me. Oh, and sometimes Axel too. But now I have Riku. And if I'm fighting beside Riku, we're gonna be okay, Sora thought firmly. They fought on, taking out nobody after nobody. There was no counting them, so they didn't even try. And as the last one vanished, Riku collapsed to his knees. Riku! Sora dashed to him, crouching down in preparation to help him up, but peered into his face.
Sora, I can't.
Riku could scarcely catch his breath. No, don't say that! Sora was deadly serious now, almost angry. It's not over, it's just not. He took Riku's arm and draped it over his shoulders to help him stand.
How, Sora? Even if we could go on, look where we are. I can't even walk under my own strength, Riku thought. How can we both make it out of somewhere past the ends of all the worlds?
Aw, Riku, you've been hanging out in the darkness too long. Try and remember how to look on the bright side. Sora gave him a cheerful smile and stared ahead. There has to be a way out. I'm not giving up, Sora told himself. I haven't given up yet. I'm going back to Destiny Islands with Riku.
Sora,
Riku said softly, the name of his best friend, who he was leaning on, literally. Yeah? Sora's smile was still untroubled.
You lead.
He looked ahead too. Got it! Sora nodded and started walking, dragging Riku along. There was no way to know how far the shadowy nothingness went on. Riku felt like they would keep going forever and never find a way out. But Sora just kept moving, focusing on the next step in front of him.
I don't have that kind of strength, thought Riku. If it was just me, I might have let myself waste away in here. But I want to get Sora home to our island. I want to go back to Kairi. Hey, Sora?
Sora's breath was already labored again, since he was basically carrying another person's weight, which made Riku feel guilty.
If Sora was alone in here, he'd be able to go as far and as fast as he wanted. You know, I just always figured I was better at stuff than you,
Riku confessed. He'd never told anybody that. Would it make Sora upset? But Sora's response was not the bluster he expected. Huh, really?
You're not mad?
Sora looked at him thoughtfully, about to say something important. No, I kinda always thought you were better at everything too. Riku hung his head. That wasn't how he imagined Sora would feel. He never would have been able to admit so easily that someone else was stronger. Well, not the way he was before. Sora came to a halt then. Riku looked at him curiously. Look, there's light up ahead, Sora exclaimed. In the distance, they could just barely see something bright. Sora moved faster toward the light. And then it flooded over them. But it wasn't a way out after all. The sound of waves reached their ears. They stood on a desolate shore. On the faraway horizon was a weak, hazy glow, unidentifiable as either moonlight or twilight. Sora had the faint sense that he'd seen this place before, but he didn't know what it was.
Dead end?
Squinting at the bleak sea. Yup, Sora nodded. There was no way to get Riku across that sea, so they couldn't go any farther. It was indeed a dead end.
Let me down,
Riku said.
I can walk.
Sora was a little skeptical, but he gently removed Riku's arm from around his shoulders. Riku teetered for a moment and then gained his footing properly on the sand. Sora let out a breath in relief, quietly so Riku wouldn't hear, and walked up to the edge of the lapping waves. He couldn't see any way out. He had no idea how to get off this lonely beach. What could they do at this point? The water here was dim and gray, nothing like their Destiny Islands. He could scarcely believe that it was the same thing, an ocean. You know, Sora mumbled, maybe the darkness has gotten to me too. He wouldn't give up, no matter what happened. He would never abandon hope. But now his hope was faltering. He was so uncertain. What could they hold on to now? He heard something behind him and turned to see Riku collapse in the sand. Riku! Sora dashed over to him, skidding as he crouched to anxiously check Riku's face.
The way I am now, this is where I should be.
Riku lifted his head, sand stuck to his cheek. He stared out at the metal-dark sea.
If this is what the world truly is, maybe I should just fade back into darkness. I wanted to see other worlds, Riku remembered. I wanted to go somewhere else, and that wish has already come true. Back then, on our island, I said to Sora and Kairi, it's just, I've always wondered why we're here, on this island. If there are any other worlds out there, why did we end up on this one? Now, I think it was because we had to be there to meet each other, and if this really is the end of all worlds, I don't mind fading out here.
Riku! Sora murmured his name.
If the world is made of light and darkness, we can be the darkness.
Although to think that Sora would become part of the darkness, Sora whose very existence was a brilliant light, it was a little sad. Still, being in the dark along with Sora, that wasn't so bad. Riku wouldn't be lonesome at all. Being here by himself would be horribly desolate, and he didn't want to be alone anymore. Beside him, Sora looked at the sea and idly stretched his legs.
Yeah, the other side, the Realm of Light. It's safe now. Kairi and the King and the others are there. Even without us, the worlds will be okay, he thought as he gazed out at the horizon. I don't mind becoming part of the darkness if I'm with Riku. Right, that's what I mean. Hey, Sora, could you help me? I want to get closer to the water.
Sora got Riku's arm over his shoulders again and hoisted him up, then started walking, step by step. It felt like Riku could hardly move his legs anymore.
Is he really gonna waste away here like this? At least the waves sound the same, said Riku.
Sora didn't reply. The ocean filled with silence between them, just like at home. They sat down side by side on the slightly damp sand, and the waves lapped at their feet. How many times had they watched the ocean together like this?
Blue sky, blue sea.
Home lived only in their memories now.
How is Kairi doing? Maybe she's sad that Riku and I disappeared.
The thought dampened Sora's spirits too.
What I said back there about thinking I was better than you,
Riku began.
That wasn't all of it.
Sora still faced the ocean as he listened to Riku.
The truth is, Sora, I was jealous of you.
Then Sora looked at him.
What for?
Riku hesitated over his words for a moment, staring out at the line between sky and sea.
I just wished I could live my life the way you do, he said after the pause. Just following my heart.
Right. If he was being honest, he'd always envied Sora. That carefree laugh, the way he romped around with Kairi, his ability to face what was ahead unflinchingly. Riku had been jealous of all of it, all those things that simply didn't come to him naturally. Sora turned back to the ocean.
Yeah, well, I've got my share of problems too.
Like what?
Like wanting to be like you,
Sora admitted quietly.
I always looked up to him. He was only a year older than me, but a little bit taller, and he was better at sword fighting, and he always looked cool, and I practically worshipped him, my best friend Riku. The truth is, I wanted to be just like him.
Really? Riku looked up at Sora's confession, letting out a tiny laugh under his breath. His gaze rested on the silvery horizon.
Well, there is one big advantage to being me. Something you could never imitate.
What do you mean? Asked Sora with a defensive pout. Riku's words came easily this time.
Having you for a friend.
A bit bashful, Sora turned to the horizon again. Then I guess I'm okay the way I am. I've got something you can never imitate too, he said, glad for it, and raised his eyes to the gloomy sky. Riku has something I can never imitate, and he can never imitate what I have. Somehow, that lifted his spirits. They both gazed absently at the starless heavens. There was no telling what time of day or night it might be here. They couldn't be sure what the light on the horizon was. The humid breeze from the ocean brought a hint of a chill. And yet they felt completely content to be here, because they were together. Sora quietly closed his eyes, and then Riku did too. They could almost pretend they were back at the beach on their island. The sound of the waves, the ocean breeze. Suddenly, Riku opened his eyes again. A little glass bottle had settled at his feet, and inside there seemed to be a letter. He took out the cork stopper and scanned the letter.
Sora?
Huh? Sora looked at him. Riku held out the letter.
I think it's for you.
Sora took it and silently read it over. Thinking of you, wherever you are, we pray for our sorrows to end, and hope that our hearts will blend. Now I will step forward to realize this wish. And who knows, starting a new journey may not be so hard. Or maybe it has already begun. There are many worlds, but they share the same sky. One sky, one destiny. The letter was signed, Kairi.
Light,
Riku murmured. A brilliant glow was pouring down in front of them. Light. Enough light to drive away the darkness. It was the worlds connected to Kairi's letter. The door to light. Sora got to his feet. We'll go together. He reached out his hand to Riku.
Yeah.
As they stepped forward together, the warm light enfolded them. The bronze sun was just about to sink into the sea beyond Destiny Island. Kairi gazed at the water. The twilight hour, between day and night, between light and darkness, when the rays of sun stretched out long between the sky and the sea, turned the world to indistinct shapes of deep blue. Xemnas had to be defeated by now, but Riku and Sora weren't home. Kairi and King Mickey, along with Donald and Goofy, had made it here through the corridors of darkness, the way Naminé had told her to go. But only them. Sora and Riku were trapped in that strange world on the other side. Hey Naminé, are you here? Kairi softly touched the place over her heart. She had a feeling that since Naminé had instructed her how to get through the corridors of darkness, maybe she could tell her something about how Sora and Riku were doing. But there was no answer. Staring at the sea, Kairi anxiously folded her hands in front of her chest. I bet they're all right, said the king from beside her. Your Majesty. He was watching the sea too, and so were Donald and Goofy, all facing the same direction with the same wish in their hearts. Sora, Riku, please come home. We're waiting for you here at the blue sea, under the clear sky. If this wish reaches you, if you're somewhere out there under the same sky, I want you to know. We're waiting for you, and we'll keep waiting. She could hear the soft rushing of the waves. Kairi thought back to the day when she'd written a letter to the boy she couldn't quite remember. She'd believed that letter would begin something. Why had she thought that? It was someone she'd seen in a dream. It must have been Sora. No, Roxas? It starts with an S. Starts with an S, Kairi murmured. Sora, we made a promise. I know we did. Two lights appeared, two shooting stars streaking across the sky. They grew brighter and trailed down into the sea, one after the other, as if reaching the end of a journey. And where the stars fell, two faces broke the surface of the water. They belonged to two boys very dear to her. The two she was waiting for. Sora! Riku! Kairi waved to them. Sora's grin was dazzling. He sloshed through the waves, running up out of the water. Riku followed him at a steady pace. A smile came to Kairi's face in answer. Just before she could dash down to the water's edge, Donald and Goofy ran out ahead of her, with King Mickey close behind them. Goofy reached Sora first, tackling him in a hug, and Donald joined in, knocking Sora down into the waves. Goofy nuzzled against Sora's cheek. Donald draped his arm around Sora's neck, and the water splashing around them sparkled like drops of sunlight. King Mickey dodged the flailing trio and made a leap for Riku, who caught him in a hug and spun him around. Kairi looked on, smiling ear to ear. After hug wrestling Sora for a decent amount of time, Donald and Goofy turned to her, beaming. Sora eventually got up with a sheepish smile and took out the Thalassa shell charm out of his pocket. His fingers closed gently around it. I'm making them, so even if one of us gets lost, we'll make it back here safe and sound, so the three of us will always be together. We're back, Sora told her shyly. Welcome home. Kairi held out a hand to him. He took her hand and held it tight. Epilogue. You're home.
My efforts these many years have come to fruition, with the world I govern having become a paradise worthy of the name Radiant Garden. Nurtured by the clear, sweet water that gives them life, fragrant flowers bloom in abundance, and the people meet each day with smiles full of hope. But where there is light, darkness also lurks. As noted in my earlier reports, I must unravel the mystery of this darkness in the heart. The safety of this paradise depends on it. I shall perform an experiment to probe the depths of a person's heart. One of my 6 apprentices, Xehanort, has volunteered to be the subject. The young man has served me ever since I found him at death's door and nursed him back to health some years ago. At the time, he had lost all his memories, but he displayed a remarkable intellectual curiosity and readily absorbed my instruction, gaining profound knowledge. He wrestles with some emotional immaturity, but surely that is due to his young age. If I explore Xehanort's heart by means of psychological tests, I may be able to awaken the past locked away within. My apprentice Evan, too, has shown great interest in Xehanort's memories. But is he really the best subject for this experiment? Xehanort does not exhibit extraordinary talents. Too extraordinary. Xehanort does indeed exhibit extraordinary talents. Too extraordinary. Perhaps even superhuman. I have made a terrible mistake. No matter how good our intentions, we are not meant to meddle in the depths of another's heart. The fault is mine, and it has plunged me into despair. A visitor from another world soothed my anguished soul. A king, small in stature, came wielding a legendary key. He introduced himself as King Mickey, and the key, yes, it was a fabled keyblade said to bring both chaos and prosperity to the world. He was quite well informed on many different things, and we spoke companionably, forming a fast friendship. And now I have everything taken from me, banished to a hollow realm of nothingness. What is Xehanort hoping to gain with a pilfered existence? How long have I been here, exiled in this realm of nothingness? Only by relying upon my anger and hatred have I been able to retain my sense of self, here in this void where all existence is negated. But I cannot continue to idle away my time. What are Xehanort and the others attempting to do? I must solve the riddles of the reports written in my stolen name. I must intercept my apprentices and defeat them. That is my mission, the only way to atone for what I wrought on the worlds. The key to it all must lie with the Heartless. The 6 traitors were operating a laboratory that churned out those cursed shadows. The Heartless act only to fulfill their instinctive needs. They detect hearts with single-minded purpose and swarm around them. They would never obey a person's commands. Instead, the Heartless would easily take the would-be commander's heart to increase their own ranks. But what if it were an even stronger Heartless giving the orders? As I suspected, Xehanort has become a Heartless. Using my name, he commanded other Heartless in quests to snatch away the hearts of many worlds. And from the core of the world's hearts, he has stolen Kingdom Hearts. He seeks to summon an unspeakably great darkness and return all things into its depths. While pursuing the truth, I became acquainted with an unusual entity. It is the soul and body left behind when a being loses its heart. When a Heartless is born, this entity disappears from the realm of light to be reborn as an entirely new being in another realm. The heart is taken, and a Heartless is created. The body and soul remain, giving rise to a different entity. These possess different intentions than the heartless, and while it is unclear what these sentient things are after, it would appear they are responsible for much havoc across the worlds. My erstwhile friend, the king, his retainers, and a keyblade-wielding hero are battling the heartless, even as this new threat approaches. And the new threat? They have given themselves a fitting name, I suppose. Those who do not exist. The nobodies. It appears my betrayers have retained human shape as nobodies and gathered more followers in hopes of advancing some new scheme. The Organization 13, formed of 13 nobodies with my betrayers at its core, has split into 2 factions. They are said to be carrying out some kind of research. To discover the organization's plans, I have decided to head to the place where 6 of its members are gathered. The towers over the far reaches of the realm between darkness and light, Castle Oblivion. It consists of 13 stories above ground and 12 below, with the contents of its white rooms transforming in response to visitors' memories. Organization 13 was conducting experiments on memory here. I was reunited with an old friend at Castle Oblivion, but could not disclose my true identity. If he knew my situation, he would likely try to stop me from pursuing my revenge. As much as I would dearly like to converse with him as in days gone by, that is now but a hopeless dream. My friend has been fighting in the realm of darkness. Most likely he has found his way there via Traverse Town. Like Castle Oblivion, that town also rests in the cleft between light and dark. It consists of the remnants of worlds whose hearts have been taken by the heartless, and it is where those who manage to escape the destruction of their worlds eventually find themselves. This realm between is considerably unstable, with corridors of darkness opening from time to time. I would surmise that when a world falls prey, some of the inhabitants arrive here through the corridors. Surely Sora traveled the same way when he first came to Traverse Town. And tomorrow, Sora will awaken. My long-awaited revenge nears its completion. Xehanort stole everything from me. While his heartless form is no more, as the leader of Organization 13, his ambition once again is to capture Kingdom Hearts, the greatest of all hearts. His heartless attempted to draw out the great darkness of Kingdom Hearts, created from the hearts of the worlds he gathered. His nobody, however, is now attempting to assimilate himself into Kingdom Hearts, which he created by poaching the hearts of so many. That fool of an apprentice. Only one mystery remains. How did Xehanort manage to open the door that appeared in the basement of my castle? But no, it is useless to posit any theories now, when everything is so close to the conclusion. King Mickey, my friend, I believe that in due course you will come across these records, my truthful accounts. How I wish I could have spoken with you again when circumstances were better. I have been a fool, obsessed with revenge. Forgive me.
Sora was alone in the cave, their secret spot. Their doodles still covered the walls. The sunlight of the Destiny Islands gently poured in from the opening in the ceiling. It was a quiet sanctuary with no sound but the distant waves. And there was the drawing of Sora and Kairi's faces on the back wall. It felt like only days ago when he'd etched the image in his hand, holding a Paopu fruit up to Kairi's lips. And yet, it felt like 100 years ago when he'd first seen that man in the black cloak here. The legend of the Paopu fruit. If 2 people share one, their destinies will become intertwined. Something like that. And then Sora noticed that someone else had added to the drawing. He brushed it with his fingertips. Now it showed Kairi's hand too, holding a Paopu fruit up to Sora. After a moment, he turned away and strode toward the mouth of the cave, then broke into a run. Outside, Sora blinked in the dazzling sunlight, then ran to Riku, who was perched on the sideways trunk of a Paopu tree. The sky was blue, and so was the sea. The air was filled with the rush of the waves and the cries of birds. The sun was sinking ever closer to the sea. It's real. This is Destiny Island. Our home. Nothing's changed, huh? Riku said lazily. Nope, nothing will. Sora nodded. Such a tiny world. But it's part of something much bigger. Watching the sunset, Sora crinkled his eyes. This tiny world, this little island. I wanted so badly to come home to this place.
Yeah.
Riku sighed. The sun drifted lower and lower. Then Sora suddenly turned to him. Hey, Riku, what do you think it was? The door to the light. Riku hopped down from his trunk with a hint of a smile and looked back at Sora. This. He pointed to Sora's heart. This? Sora examined his own chest.
Yeah, it's always closer than you think.
Just as a grin spread across Sora's face, they heard Kairi calling, Sora! Riku! She sprinted down the beach to them, a small glass bottle in her hand. What's up? Said Sora. Look! She'd been clutching the bottle to her chest, making sure not to drop it, and now she held it out to them. A piece of paper was rolled up inside, and in the middle, it bore King Mickey's seal. It's from the king? Sora hurried to pop out the cork and shake the letter free, then started reading right away. Riku smiled as he read it in turn. Kairi examined it anxiously. The setting sun shone gold on their faces. The end. And that is the end of the Kingdom Hearts 2 light novel, Volume 2.